Welcome to the Unmuted Podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm the host, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things HR, talent, HR tech, world of work, and the podcast lives on our website at GoScaleHR.com and also on our YouTube channel as well. So if you haven't already done so, please check out our episode. We've got about 50 plus on there. Like them, subscribe so you get notified of new episodes being dropped, which usually happens every Thursday morning. So, and we've got a fantastic topic here. It's called "The Plane Was in the Air Before We Built It." So this has nothing to do with planes and building airplanes. So that's our topic, and we have a fantastic guest here today, and we will get into her background and bring her in just a second. But first, so once again, this is called "The Plane Was in the Air Before We Built It." All right. So I just want to talk about a couple things to frame this conversation, set the context. And so my first point is this episode is all about taking a look at how a bold idea is brought to life. Okay. Not in theory, but in motion. So it's about building something meaningful in real time with no blueprint, a looming deadline, and a mission that resonates deeply. And so it's also going to be focused on the power of a community, right? Which is something, what I strongly believe in. The courage to lead through uncertainty, which is obviously a huge part of our world today, and how purpose, people, and clarity can fuel extraordinary outcomes, even in messy and high-stakes environments. So you're probably thinking, well, this has been our world for the past 5 years. So the answer is yes. So true on that. And so we're going to really take a look at something really different here. Our guest, Elizabeth Pecoraro, who is in Montreal, and she has a really interesting background, and she's going to be joining us today. So Elizabeth, I want to welcome you to the Unmuted podcast.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you. And thank you so much for that introduction.
Absolutely. So before we dive into our topic of building airplanes and flying them, do you want to tell us a bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So right now I'm in a little bit of a transitional chapter of my career. Earlier in the year, I was actually working at an AI social media startup, and I was working as the people operations and customer experience manager, but the startup decided to then close its doors. From then, I decided to sort of take this time to take a step back and reevaluate sort of what I've been doing. I've now fully sort of transitioned actually into student mode. I had been pursuing a certificate in accounting at the same time while working full time, and I decided to now take this time to actually go ahead and sort of finish up the certificate. So I'm doing that now. And of course, this also allowed me to actually spend a lot more time on a project that I had been working on since May of 2024, alongside founder of the Nota Bene Foundation, Nori Bortoluzzi. We were able to basically bring this project to life, which Jeff, you had sort of referred to in the introduction, which is it's called Crafted for Courage. And basically what it was is it's a public art installation, and it's also a fundraising initiative that raises awareness about violence against women. And what happened was on May 10th, we ended up one of the lobby of Place Ville Marie here in Montreal with over 334 blankets that were all handmade by volunteers across the entire province. And with that, we actually ended up raising over $50,000 to help support 4 local women's organizations here in Montreal that help women who have experienced violence. And so that was an initiative that I had sort of been a part of, and is definitely the example of sort of building a plane while flying it, because it had been something that had never happened in Montreal, let alone, I believe, in Canada. And, there was the idea. Nori had this incredible idea. She had participated in something similar in Italy, but it had never sort of been done here in our communities, in our culture. And so we really looked at ways to sort of creatively bring this.
This is actually a pretty cool story. I mean, so basically this episode is really about this project that you are part of, and so, which I think is really cool because I think all of us can actually learn something from this. And it's not so much about the actual nitty-gritty of the project, but it's about sort of how it started from sort of an idea, and it was something that was on the fly, and it just sort of happened. And of course, sometimes people can't wait until the whole thought out plan is conceived,
Exactly.
because time needs to move on. So this is really, really interesting, and I'm glad that we're doing this. I mean, your background is really interesting. It goes to show that there's been a bit of a shift in the HR industry of people sort of broadening their horizons of
Yeah.
business lines, right? And so I think you're a testament to that. And so obviously, when you finish your program, and I have no doubt that you'll find something that is rewarding. And of course, everybody out there, if you're looking to hire somebody,
Absolutely.
Elizabeth
Thank you,
will be
Jeff.
looking at some point. Somebody come knocking
Thank you for that.
on your door. All right. So I had to do that. So
Thank you. I
all right.
appreciate it.
So let's dive into our question. So the first question really is, when we were planning this episode, you talked about building this plane while flying it, right? Okay. So we've talked about that a little bit. What does that actually mean, and look like on a day-to-day basis? And then how did you stay grounded through the chaos?
Yeah, so building a plane while flying it means that you have, in my mind, you have this vision, you know what the end is going to be. You're at the start and you have no idea how you're really going to get from point A to point B. And what really, really helped to make us stay grounded during the process that I found as someone who focuses a lot on execution. I mean, I've worked in past startup, like I was saying, Design Stripe. And so the chaos of it all and not always knowing how we're going to get there is actually a state that I feel, or that I've found that I actually feel very comfortable with. And so we know that we're at point A and we needed to get to point B, and we needed to find out a way that we were going to get to that point where we knew that we had the event was going to be on May 10th. We knew that we wanted to raise X amount of dollars, and it's like how we were going to get that. And so what helped was really just like breaking everything down step by step and understanding the process of the project, and understanding if this needs to happen, then this needs to happen beforehand, and sort of planning that out, being really organized. But then last but not least, what made us super grounded was that knowing that at the end of the day, we're here to raise awareness about violence against women. We're here to raise money for these shelters, and to believe that people are going to think that this is a great initiative. We just need for people to believe in our organization and the way that the event is going to happen, and that we knew like we're doing good. There has to be good people that are going to be attracted to this idea, and that they're going to want to help us. And so that purpose really sort of grounded us, because there were a lot of times where it'd be like, oh my God, we have this and this and this to do. And then we also have, the event to plan. But before that, we had been trying to collect over 5,000 squares. And so handmade squares. So that's like a logistical thing all in itself. And so really taking a step back and remembering the purpose to why was actually really, really grounding. And also, believing that the right people were going to come to us, and they really did. Like we were able to assemble an incredible group of volunteers, because none of these volunteers were paid, right? It was absolutely volunteers and people coming through with their own fruition to want to help.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something that resonated with me, which is obviously there has to be some sort of a long-term vision. This is what this project is going to do, A, B, and C, and that's sort of the end game, right? And then obviously working backward, from there, I've done that many times, because that I find that when you have that, then it's much easier to work backwards and actually get things done, versus trying to create a project plan from the get-go. It's like, it just starts to go on and on and on. So that's really interesting. But then you also mentioned about people, so that segues into my next thought, which is obviously part of the learning, I think, here is the power of a small and then also an intentional group of people that came together.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about how you, I guess, founded or built that core team, and then what made them so effective?
Yep. So one thing that made the core team really effective is that we had all basically agreed that, and it wasn't a formal agreement, it was more of like a way that we had our actions together, that the vision of what the event was supposed to, and this movement that we were creating, which comes really from our founder, Nori, is something that we all wanted to help in that execution. So we weren't there to tell Nori, oh, it should be done this way, or it actually needs to be this. It was like, this is what you believe in. We fully support what this vision is, and we're here to help make that. happen. And so I had got on, sort of embarked. I think it was Nori and then it was me. So I was the second person to sort of embark on this. And then I was like, okay, well, we need somebody that's going to have, for example, really good knowledge on knitting and crochet, because that's a big bulk of the project. I reached out to a teacher that I used to go, that used to teach me in high school. So I was like, this is the project. Would you help? And she was able, absolutely. She embarked. Same thing for her. She also talks about the fact that it was never about changing the vision. It was always about helping with the execution of the project. Then it so happens that my fiance is also very good at sort of corporate relations, has a really great sort of network. So he was able to jump in there to help with sort of getting our foot in the door with different areas. But then we even had people that had seen sort of the newspaper article in the Montreal Gazette and reached out to Nori. So we met an incredible volunteer, Andrea, that actually ended up sort of coming forward and saying, I have all this experience in communication. Please use me in any capacity that you have. And so Andrea and I ended up, on a weekly basis, working together, whether it was social media, newsletters, and all that stuff. And so it really was that people sort of revealed themselves. But what it was that at the get-go, everybody was there to help in the execution and didn't want to change the vision of what we were trying to accomplish. And because we were this small group, we did the best that we could given the time that we had. And we always knew, like, okay, this is going to be the first edition. It's very much a grassroots project. And so we really tried to focus on making it as simple as possible, but also as impactful as we could.
Yeah, I think this is a really good example of where you found people that could target or take on some really key skills, right? So like any other organization, when you're trying to build a team, it's the same thing. You're trying to find people that have really interesting skills, but also share that sort of common vision. You wouldn't tap me to help you with that crocheting because I have no clue what I'm doing, right? But obviously the point being is that you find people who have that skill set and actually willing to sort of jump into this.
But even to that point, Jeff, like, how to build a community, right? With the community of HR that you've built, we would then maybe even tap in and say, okay, we're trying to do this. What are the ways that we can communicate to people and all of that? And so we really tried to see, okay, this is what the project is. This is your intention. And it really ended up working. It really ended up working out in our favor in that way.
So you talked a bit about purpose, community. Obviously, those are the huge positive drivers when it comes to taking bold action or taking bold ideas to action. So what's one thing that surprised you the most about how people showed up? When mission resonated? Was there one thing that stood out to you?
Something that really stood out is that the fact that people just really wanted to help. Like, they were like so proud in the fact that they were able to. And now when we talk about our volunteers boldly, we talk about people who submitted their squares that were, 50 by 50, hand knitted or crocheted. And so people really wanted to participate in this. They wanted to show that their square, which symbolizes basically to stop violence against women, they were super, super proud to have participated in this initiative. The mission really resonated with them, and they also wanted to share it with as many people as they could in their community. And that was something that was really incredible. Like, at the beginning of the project, I want to say maybe in November, we were worried that we wouldn't get 50 squares. So I was learning how to crochet, because I was worried, that, okay, I would have to do all these things and crocheting it. And then what ended up happening was that, like, as soon as we really honed in on the communication and we were able to sort of push it and approach the right sort of groups, they really were like, yeah, we got it. Don't worry about it. We're gonna be able to help you. And we ended up getting over 5,000 squares. And so that simple message is really what took off. And that was incredible to see how people were so willing to participate, and that they were also so willing to share the initiative with so many other people. And that was truly, truly incredible. Like, I was trying to, like, keep up with all the social media, and, like, it was so hard to even track, like, all of the different shared posts that people had shared.
Yeah.
And so, no, it was truly incredible. And that was a really, really big, surprising part.
That's fantastic. And obviously that's the definition of when, something goes viral, right? It's difficult to really track it. But once again, I think this is a message and a learning for everyone who runs a team, whether it be a project like this, a not-for-profit, or if it's an event, or if it's a for-profit company. it doesn't really matter. I mean, as long as there's a vision and a mission for your people and they're actually attracted to it, then you can make anything happen. So this next part of, my career, I've been a leader for a long time, and it's never perfect. So there's no such thing as a perfect leader. So how did you personally grow as a leader during these experiences? And especially when things get messy or sort of uncertain, because that's really where the true testament of a strong leader comes in.
Yeah. So something that I think, being still sort of early in my career, that I have sort of wrestled with is that I actually build confidence by doing. And so that's sometimes that earlier in the career when you don't necessarily have so much formal job experience, it's hard to sort of say in an interview, I'm good at X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. But this experience really reassured that I do build that confidence by doing, and that I actually surprised myself a lot by being super confident in the decisions that I had made and even the decisions that we had made together as a team. And sort of one sort of maybe anecdote or like sort of example is that we had, Place Ville Marie was really generous and they gave us a storefront 2 weeks before the event so that we could actually do like a lot of promotion and marketing. And there were so many well-intentioned people that said, listen, you should be doing this event during the weekday because there are so many people that come to Place Ville Marie. You guys shouldn't be doing it on a Saturday. There were all these sort of like, well-intentioned advice. And at the end of the day, for us, it was like, we're doing this event because we're here to raise awareness about violence against women. We're not necessarily interested in people coming during their lunch hour to check out what we're doing. We're here to really spread the message that all of these people that have participated are saying no to violence. And we're going to stick with that. And yes, thank you so much for your advice. But at the end of the day, like this is the message that we're trying to send. It's not sort of like a tick box in your account, in your calendar, and really being confident with that and saying like, no, this is what we're doing. This is what we're trying to accomplish is something that maybe surprised me, but it's sort of the confidence in the decisions that you make. Another thing that I did is during the event, we had about a 30-minute session where we wanted to do a presentation. We had our ambassador, Amy Kaufman, who's a survivor of domestic violence, speak. And I made the executive decision to sort of close the donation booth during that time. And, people weren't happy about it, but I stuck with the fact that like, listen, we needed everybody to go and listen to the presentation because at the end of the day, she's the one that had a lot of messaging about how much this impacts women within Quebec, how much this impacts women within Canada, her personal experience. And, it might have not been the best business decision because maybe we would have missed out on donations, and we probably did. But at the end of the day, a lot of people were there. They were fully focused and understood that this was the messaging about what the event was. So I think that was something that I really, really grew, is just being confident in your decisions, even if somebody is politely disagreeing. And
yeah, I think that that's an excellent example because I think it's difficult, for a lot of people because they want to please, right? And so obviously when you're a leader, you're in a position where you need to make tough choices, obviously. And, it's not that you were saying no to like out of spite, but you were very, very clear on your mission, your plan. And so when you're very, very, very clear on those things, it makes it much easier, obviously, to do those things. But that's an excellent. To kind of wrap all this up, is there one thing that you want viewers to take away if they've been paying attention and which I hope you all are? Is one thing that you want people to take away?
So I don't want to sound cheesy, but if the goal is really big, and it scares you a little bit or it scares you a lot, then that's probably a really good indicator that you're about to do something great, or at least try to do something great. When Nori had come to me and sort of discussed this whole vision, like I was very gung-ho, but also the back of my head, I was like, how are we going to do this? And I think I think at the end of the day, the learning process was probably the result was amazing. We raised over $50,000, right? A lot of awareness was spread, but the learning process was really incredible because for me, it really showed that like when you have a small intentional group of people that has a vision and mission in mind, anything is possible. And so if you have that goal, if it scares you, like go for it. I think, you have to go for it. It's something to do. And you don't always have to have a plan. You can think about and sort of manifest what you want the end result to be. And then if you can work backwards, if you can speak about it with the right people in your network and reach out and discuss, then like people are always willing to sort of help move the ball forward.
So I think that is excellent. That actually resonates with me greatly for my own personal reasons. I pivoted my company last year, and it
Yeah.
scared the hell out of me. But I knew that it was the right move to make, given where the economy was and where the
Yeah.
opportunities were, especially with AI and to where the HR tech market was going. And so I knew that there was something there, and I knew that because I was freaking out about it, but the opportunity was there. That gave me like even more evidence to say that.
Yeah.
I need to do this, right? I think the other thing too, and if you want to go cheesy, this is going to be cheesy, but when there's a will, there's a way.
There's a
So I
way.
always say to people, things always work out, right? Especially when you come up with like events and projects and things like that. But no, I think that is an excellent takeaway. And Elizabeth, I just want to thank you for being here. Obviously, this is the Unmuted podcast. So my name is Jeff. I'm your host. We talk about all things world of work, HR tech, HR leadership, and anything that connects. And the episodes live on our website at GoScaleHR.com, which is being rebuilt right now. It's going to be ready for launch. I was going to say next month, but now it's this month, towards the end of June. So I'm really excited about that. And, also on our YouTube channel. So please chime in, share your thoughts and comments. So Elizabeth, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate it.